what does somebody that we might say is good want? Well, they want to see the next step. So whatever that next step is, if they're they're getting the job, the next step is to do the job in the first place. Once they know what they're doing, the next step is a little bit more responsibility. And we can show them that path right the way through to being managing partner.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Inspiration podcast with Meri and Rich. Here we're talking about inspiration, motivation and empowerment. Our guests are ordinary people who became extraordinary, and with sharing their stories, we want to empower you to become the person you want to be and to go beyond your dreams.
This morning we're pleased to welcome Malcolm Palmer. Malcolm is the owner and founder of A4G Accounting. This business has been established for over 30 years, and it's a great privilege to have Malcolm with us this morning. Welcome, Malcolm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
For coming. Where I know that obviously I'm meeting you this morning, Malcolm. How you two met? Can you remind me? And what is the how?
Yeah, well, we met at a Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce event, I believe. Right, yeah. Got a fantastic member of my marketing team called Amanda Stoneham. So Amanda does lots of the networking, and she takes our qualified accountants who are starting to build up their client bases out to many of the networking events. And she roped me in to speak at, for about 10, 15 minutes. And that's where we met.
We did, yeah. And you were presenting a little bit of history about the business.
Yep.
And obviously you've written two amazing books, Accidental Millionaire, which you mentioned. And then also something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is how to extract yourself, making your business less dependent on you, which was absolutely fascinating because there are so many entrepreneurs out there who have been through the journey and the business, and they either sell it or they don't know how to get out of it, and they just stick around maybe a bit too long. And that was really fascinating story. So I heard the story and I was thinking, I need to talk to Malcolm. So here you are. So yeah, that's how we met, which was great.
We'll, as always, we like to take you back in the time and just to have a look on your career and your work journey. I was very pleased to hear that you studied in Queen Elizabeth in Faversham back in the time. I really hope with good memories from there. You are.
Memories, yeah. Loved my time there.
What's happened with your career and obviously path after finishing QE? Where did you go?
Where did I go? So I've been interested in business from my mid-teens really, and I was good at maths, and I read an article one day about Barry Hearn, the snooker darts promoter, who at the time was he was Steve Davis's manager. Steve Davis was world snooker champion. He's built up this stable, and I read that he was a chartered accountant. And I was mad on sport, pretty much any sport that doesn't involve horses or swimming. And I just thought, well, if you can do that with it, you can do anything with it. Mm-hmm. So I sort of decided, this is a bit sad really, isn't it? To decide at the age of 15 that you're going to be a chartered accountant. And how many other 15-year-olds make that decision? And I worked out that the shortest way to do it at the time was to go and do a 1-year course at a polytechnic. That ages me, doesn't it? And then a 4-year training contract with an accountancy practice, which was...
That was like an apprenticeship almost, or not?
Yeah. So they used to call it, the really old chartered accountants would call it doing your articles.
Okay.
It's just a training contract. And the choices back then were you could either have a degree and then you had to do a 3-year training contract during which you got to pass all the exams, or you did a 1-year foundation course and a 4-year training contract during which you could pass all the exams. So I thought qualified in 5 years or qualified in 6 years. So I'll take the 5-year route. And much to the disappointment of the careers officer at Queen Elizabeth, by the way, who wanted as many people to go to university as possible and get degrees. So I always thought that as soon as I was qualified, I would leave the accountancy profession and go into business. And when I was about 3 years into my training, somebody left at one of the other offices of the firm that I was at. So I got a little bit of a promotion. I started dealing face to face with the clients, and I loved it. And the best way I can sum it up is a lady who worked for me in the firm we took over, an older lady, said to me about 10 years later, she said, everybody thinks accountancy is boring. She said, but we get involved in all the interesting things that happen to all of our clients. And I went, exactly. The bit that people think are boring is it's just the basic inputting stuff.
It's just the numbers coming at people up.
Yeah. So I've sort of had this fortunate thing, really, to be able to learn to become a businessman myself whilst observing hundreds and hundreds of other people getting things right or getting things wrong. And that's part of what I pulled together in the 2 different books that I've written.
Because I guess you almost become like an agony aunt almost, or agony uncle, because obviously listening to people talking about what's going on in their business, obviously that you learn, first of all, obviously as you're younger, you learn as you're hearing those stories, but then you can use those to your advantage and go, well, actually I heard that story from someone else, and build that and bring it together.
Absolutely right. I mean 2 different points there. The agony uncle thing, quite right. And one of our trainees at the moment, who's been with us about 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's sort of built a really close relationship with one of the clients, and he said that that particular client has referred to him as my therapist as a bit of a joke, But I think every business owner needs somebody in their life that is their closest confidant on their business. And for some people that might be their husband or wife. It might be a parent, it might be a family friend, it might be a business consultant that they use. But if they haven't got any of those things, they will have an accountant. And it is often the accountant who becomes that confidant. And right from the very outset, I used to say to clients that we might not have all the answers, but we will know somebody who will have the answer to whatever the problem is, and so you get all sorts of weird and wonderful things thrown at you.
I think that's when sort of like the social thing, because some people go and see it like an accountancy company, they go and sit down, they present their figures, they just go, here you go, what do I need to do? Okay, thank you very much, bye-bye. And there's very little relationship, very little communication, but obviously it's understanding, isn't it? Then building that relationship, and often maybe going out for lunch or meeting in an evening and just saying, let's go out for a chat, and what difficulties are you experiencing? Because every single business leader will have some, particularly small businesses, they will always have challenges, and obviously you must be used to hearing those challenges every week.
Yeah, quite right. And I guess within our client base, with any accountant's client base, you've got many clients whose businesses don't change that much from one year to the next. The owners are quite happy with the business; they're quite happy with the income that they've got. They're working to live, and for most of those clients, we may do a pretty similar service year in, year out, unless they get hit by a bit of a curveball, something big happens. But then you've got the other clients that are trying to grow the business. They are, and they'll come up with lots of ideas. They'll try out certain things. Some things will go wrong. They might, have a business decision that goes wrong. They might get a legal problem. Some things might go fantastically right, and they're not prepared to be able to finance the growth of the business or deal with all the challenges that come. And those are the ones in that second group that we're sort of like the perfect accountants for, really, because whatever that challenge is, as I said, we'll either have somebody in-house that can meet it, or within the wide network of people that we know, we can pull things together.
How you build your business? Because obviously you were working, you've been trainee, or how did you build your business?
Yeah, so I qualified at completely the wrong time, when Britain was just going into a massive recession. A year before I qualified, the world was going to be my oyster, and there was tons of jobs. I was looking at getting a job in Bermuda, and then in 1990 the economy dropped off a cliff, and so I stayed where I was for a couple of years. Then I moved to another firm in the Medway Towns, and just did whatever I could to grow my own client base within that firm. So I would have been the next partner there. And then out of the blue one day, one of the two partners took a phone call from a local solicitor who was acting for the family of an accountant who passed away. And this guy had been ill for a year with cancer. They hadn't really told the clients. Right. They used to send out, all the letters were signed by the firm rather than him, so clients didn't even know he was ill. And then he passed away, and they had to do a deal to sell this business, or within a couple of months, the clients would have been gone, really. And so one of the two partners said to me, would you like to go and run it? And then he said, we'd have to make you partner, of course. So I sort of thought about it for about a millisecond. And
because at that point you were what, 21, 22?
No. I qualified at 23. So It took a year to do my foundation course, it was called. Went to Oxford Polytechnic. I always tell everyone I studied at Oxford. And
why not?
Why not? Yeah. So I qualified at 23. So by this stage I was 28, and I was getting itchy feet, actually. I got my client base to a certain size. I was kind of thinking, we're getting to the point where I'm going to have to go in and say, look, make me partner,
was that quite young though, at 28 to be a partner?
Very young, yeah. Yeah, most firms, I was good at firm. The two partners, Steve and Jim, Jim sort of like knew everything, and Steve was very commercial, and they were quite different in the 90s compared to a lot of the stuffy old firms, because a lot of the what just called the stuffy old firms, it was very much dead man's shoes. You'd almost wait for a partner to retire, and then somebody would get promoted. But they were growing the business, and
they wanted more partners.
I was like a little business within a business, growing my own clients. And so most people are not going to make partner until they're in their 30s or at all,
Yeah, of course.
And so suddenly that was a big step up. My client base quadrupled overnight. I went up to this office that had 5 members of staff, 3 of which were, diplomatically say, were in the latter stages of their careers. These sort of 3 ladies that didn't really get on very well with each other, and all these clients that had the same accountant for 20, 25 years, who was the same age as them, and were now suddenly that person was being replaced by somebody who was half his age, So I had a year of firefighting, because everything was way behind. And this chap didn't believe in computers. It was 1995, not 1895,
Yes.
1995. And so I did sort of a year of firefighting when I just dealt with it with a shut up the loudest, really. And at the end of that year, I'd picked up as much new business as we'd lost, and then we kicked on from there. That was it was really the end of year 1, in a way, was the start. And at that point, I sort of had a bit of a vision for what I wanted the business to be, and some plans for how we would
But
grow
this
it.
is obviously was quite challenging year, and it will include lots of leadership skills, I assume, to manage and management. How, on this age, have you been prepared with that? Was it learning on go? Did you had mentors, someone to help you?
Yeah, a bit. Steve and Jim were quite good. Steve did give me one bit of advice, which was to grow a beard so I looked older. So I thought, is that the best you're going to give me, Steve? And but yeah, there was one or two challenging situations. Interestingly, Steve said something to me that was a really good bit of advice for anybody younger who's listening, who's going to step into a situation where they've got old people that are older than them, they're going to manage. He said, don't try to impose, your authority on knowledge. He said, there will be loads of opportunities, things that come up where you will have the opportunity to just be explaining something to people, and they will realise fairly quickly that you know what you're doing, and that worked really well. And you just,
because then people come to you at that point, don't they? They literally come to you and go, actually, can you just tell me about that, and can you give me that bit of advice?
Yeah, exactly.
Respect.
Yeah,
that's building respect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, I realised that the business was a little bit overstaffed, and the only reason they were busy was because they had this backlog. And I just said to everybody, look, we've got to get we'd have to get new clients here, and to get new clients, we need to modernise this business a bit and modernise the services. And one of the ladies came to me, and she wasn't up for that at all, and asked if we'd make her redundant. So so we did. And everybody else was up for it. And then later that year, I took on our first trainee, which meant there were no two men in the office, because before that it was me and all ladies. And the average age of the firm went down quite a bit. And that was a really key thing to do, because that started the business on a path. So we took on a trainee that very first autumn, and then the following year I took on another one, and it's gone on from there. So at different stages we've gone up to 2 trainees, 3 trainees. So this year, in a few weeks' time, there will be 5 new trainees starting at A4G.
Wow.
And pretty much everybody over the years has been out of school rather than university, 18-year-olds. The Emma and Josh, who took over the reins as managing partner on the 1st of March this year, on our 30th anniversary. Emma joined as an 18-year-old in 1999, and Josh joined. Josh was a graduate. He joined out of university in 2006, and then there's a whole path of others who have come out of school and have worked their way through the firm over the last 30 years.
Yeah, when you talk about one of the things that always, for anyone who doesn't understand how an accountancy business works, but obviously in a traditional business you've got like a level of management, people running, doing the day-to-day work, then you've got the managers, and then you've got the directors and owners. When people talk about a partner in the business, is a partner the equivalent to a director in the accountancy company, or are they 2 different things?
Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? So, the legal definition of a partner would be where 2 or more people have come together in business. That's what a partner is.
Yeah.
In the accountancy world, a partner is almost akin to a job title, really.
Okay.
And it's sort of come to have a bit of a meaning and an expectation that is somebody who is overseeing a batch of clients.
So like an account manager, effectively.
Well,
sort of, but not.
But perhaps one above that.
Yeah.
I mean, every firm's different, and I'll describe our firm, but we are a little bit unconventional in that we have really clearly defined what people do. So in our firm, every client has, we call them a client manager and a principal advisor, and the client manager does what the accountant has done for 150 years. So they will oversee the accounts production, the tax returns, the work at Companies House, and they'll have junior members of staff that will do most of that work. They will have the relationship with whoever does the bookkeeping for that business. And then the principal advisor, they will often have signed up the client in the first place. They may have an annual meeting, normally before the year end, to discuss tax planning, strategic planning, problems, where the business is going, all of that. They will also probably be the one that the client will ring when there's a big problem. So we've really clearly defined a principal advisor and a client manager. And in our firm, when somebody gets their client base as principal advisor to a certain size, we give them the title of partner. And at that point, the financial deal is slightly different. We make a big thing of it from a marketing point of view. We have partners meetings where everybody gets to have their say about what they want the business to be doing going forward. Alongside that, we have a board as well. So we have 5 people on our board, and 4 of those are also partners. So they are running client bases, and then one of them isn't. Her whole job is part of the management of the business. So the board run the business and the partners look after the clients. And there's an overlap between those 2 groups of people. But we're quite unconventional. I mean, I've, a lot of people running professional practices will run it the way it's always been run or the way everyone else in their industry runs it. I've looked at all, the businesses that we work with and read far more business books than I could ever remember, and structured our business in a way that I felt would make it as the most successful it could be.
So when you first started A4G, so when that was obviously a step, obviously, to leave the other business where you were already become a partner, and how did that journey look, and how did you sort of get the opportunity?
Yeah, well, we'd moved once and we were moving again, and I had somebody within the organisation that I wanted to bring in and give a little bit of equity, and it was just getting a bit complicated, really. And so I was just speaking to Steve and Jim, and Steve said, "Well, why don't we do a deal? You buy yourself out." So that's what I did, and I kept a good relationship with them for many years. But that was, that was having spent about 4.5 years at that stage building up my office within this firm. That was the point we broke away, and I nearly said the shackles were off, but it was a little bit, because I wasn't accountable to anybody other than the clients, really. From that point onwards.
Was that quite a scary step? Because obviously, I mean, start going alone and then starting your own business, obviously you probably had clients around you and people that would want to work with you and trust you, because obviously that's normally the one thing is that helps you on that step.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that scary, really. It was just a natural progression. We were in a different building. We might have been part of another business. But, I was already, our business was already doing things in different ways to the way the other offices of that firm were. So it was just a natural progression. The scarier thing was it all came about because we were going to move. I wanted to move premises, and I couldn't find anywhere to move to. I couldn't find any offices. I looked at a few places and nothing kind of worked. And I've been driving past this derelict building in West Kingsdown on my way to work for the previous 2 or 3 years. So I started to make some inquiries about it, and I found out that it was an ex-bikers cafe, a legendary bikers cafe back in the 60s and 70s. All the rockers were there. And then it had become a nightclub with various sort of dubious reputations. So just to sidetrack, one of my clients sat in the office first time he came in, and he said, there used to be a stage over there, because we bought this derelict place, got planning permission, turned it into offices. I said, there was. He said, do you know what? He said, last time I was in this building, I was on that stage with my brother. We were wearing boiler suits with bicycle clips around the ankles, while a 6-foot drag queen filled the boiler suits with baked beans. So So you get a picture of what sort of nightclub it was. He would have been about 18, 19 at that point. You know, this is 20 years later, something. And so we that was a really interesting time to do that, because it's Greenbelt area, so I had Seven Oaks Council to try and negotiate with. You'd think they'd be quite happy for a derelict nightclub to be turned into a accountancy office, wouldn't you? It's a bit more complicated than you think.
Always.
Yeah, you know, I had to finance all of that, but it's you just get on with it, don't you?
And you still have that building today?
Still have that building today, yeah. We've got another office that we're going to develop, and we're sort of going through a planning process at the moment. We looked at what we could do with it, and there's pretty much nothing. It's an old building that's been added to and added to and added to. So we're hopefully going to turn it into industrial units and move a couple of miles down the road to something a little bit more modern. But for 26 years, you know, it's served us well.
Escape to luxury at Hempstead House Hotel and Spa, an elegant country house hotel in Bapchild, near Sittingbourne, Kent. Relax with indulgent spa treatments. Dine in style with exquisite cuisine. Perfect for getaways, weddings and events. Experience luxury in the heart of Kent. Book your stay today.
Be the first to discover Kent's best events all in one free app. What's On in Kent is a new and rapidly growing app where you can find days out information, places to eat, festivals, concerts, markets, and much more around you. Just with few clicks on your phone or computer, you can stay updated with real-time info and explore events across Kent. Don't even think twice. Just download. It's free. Tell us a little bit more about the books, how you decide to write a book, and I'm really keen to learn about the first book that you write.
So the first book was really interesting. I mean, when COVID happened, I mean, I've always written loads of stuff. You know, we've always had, you know, even before we had a good website, we used to do little newsletters and send them out and follow it up with phone calls and stuff. So I've always written tons of content. And when COVID happened, I felt like we were about 2 weeks ahead of everybody else. You know, I could see, and I didn't understand why, because all you had to do was look at what's happening in Italy to work out what was going to be happening here 2 or 3 weeks later, right? Yeah. So we started sending out content every single night from about, I think it was about the 10th of April. Okay. 10th of March. Lockdown was 23rd of March.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So by the time lockdown happened, we'd already been giving loads of advice out, you know, and we kept that going. And when I say every night, including Saturdays and Sundays, we were sending stuff out. Anyway,
and when you say we send out, do you write, or a team was looking after that?
It was a combination, yeah. And it was a mix of, you know, obviously there was lots of, you know, the government was doing lots of things. There was all these different initiatives, but it was also, you know, business advice stuff and what you should do in certain situations, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, between Aisha and I, Aisha being who looks after all our inbound marketing, we came up with this idea that on Friday night, the marketing department had let Malcolm go rogue. And so I'd sort of write a piece on a Friday night, which was a little bit, it was sort of a bit of a commentary on what had happened that week. It was a little bit tongue in cheek, but it was also trying to give some business advice as well, you know, in a sort of entertaining way. And we did a few themes, and then one of my clients is a business that's run by Steve Backley and Roger Black. Steve Backley, for those who don't know him, was world record javelin thrower, won the European Championships 4 times, came 6th in dancing on ice. And Roger Black is his business partner, was a 400-metre runner. That's right, was in the British World Champ team that beat the Americans in the World Championship. also Olympic medalists, blah, blah, blah. So, and they were incredibly bored, right? Because all their speaking stuff had all dried up. There was no commentary work to do. So they put this thing together called the Mind Setting Program, and which they were, most of their work is for big corporates. So it was something that people could do digitally. And so I started writing a piece every single week around one of those issues, but I wrote it for how it applied to owner-managed small businesses. And I do a little interview with Steve and Roger. So anyway, when they finally opened the golf courses, I said to Steve, what do you reckon about I turn that into a book? So, and I'd always had this concept that I talked about what I call accidental millionaires. And my accidental millionaires in our client base are the people who often left school with very little formal qualifications, not knowing what they wanted to do, sometimes fell into a job with, their dad's mate or a place down the road that had an ad out, on the window or something. But actually became quite good at what they did and had that spark of ambition within them. So at some point went out on their own and just day after day after day just did the right things until all of a suddenly they've got a giant tax bill because of how much profit they've made, or the financial advisor points out to them how much they're worth, and it feels like it's come as a bit of a surprise. And it seemed to me that those people had all the mindset things that Steve and Roger talked about. Some of these people just had that automatically.
And they didn't even think about it.
And they didn't even think about it.
It naturally happens. Yeah,
it just naturally happens, And so that was. So the full title of the first book was Accidental Millionaires: The Secret Mindset Successful Business Owners Share with Sporting Legends, and gave me a chance to write a lot where I'm comparing business and sports. So that was the first book. The real passion that I've always had was this making your business less dependent on you. And I started to write that book in 2012. And I was writing it as a story. And it was a story about a fictional family, the Bright family, who have this business and the challenges that the father of the family, who's the main one running the business, has, because the business is too dependent on him. And so that was about 2012, and then I just ran out of steam with it, really, and it just got parked for about 10 years. And with my plans to just start stepping back within A4G and to hand over the reins as managing partner, I thought, I've got to finish this book. So what I did is I pulled together all the theory about how you make your business less dependent on you. And I then went back to my original story, realised I had to modernise it a little bit.
A rewrite.
Yeah, a tiny bit of a rewrite, yeah. And intersperse the story with the theory. And the book I've always wanted to write. Because you mentioned about being, we talked about being the therapist for some of our clients or whatever. The big thing is every single client, they've either not got enough money or they've not got enough time. And one of the lines I use in the book, I just remember going to see a client with a set of draft accounts that we prepared, which was like the biggest profit they'd ever made. And this is about 25 years ago, and they'd made about 600,000 profit. And I thought, well, they're going to be happy, aren't they, this year? And he went, life's not much fun at the moment, Malcolm. And I'm just like, what? But basically, the business had just completely absorbed them. You know, it was so manic all day, and they'd get home, and he said, "Oh, we just flopped down on the sofa."
They probably didn't have time to appreciate what they'd achieved, probably.
No, they just didn't have time to enjoy it. You know, and they didn't. They sort of didn't really see any friends very often, and I just thought, that's really interesting. You know, I don't want to get to a point where life's not much fun at the moment just because business has become everything. And there's a key moment when I think a business owner's just got to decide, because in the early years, they're just focused on building up that income, right? You know, you want a particular lifestyle, and you want a bit of spare cash. But there's a point where you've got to go, hang on a minute, I need to invest inside this business now.
Sometimes it needs invigorating as well, doesn't it? Because some businesses get to a point where the business owner, they haven't quite got the same passion and the energy that they had at the very beginning. And they're starting to get almost, like you said, I mean, as you described in that gentleman, almost that business, they were at burnout in the business in terms of they were so busy. And sometimes to step back and just to actually put somebody else in to lead and to grow and to build the team is something that a lot of people find incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah, and that was interesting, actually. I remember that particular client, he put a bonus scheme in place for the manager. But the guy only got a bonus if the profit was higher than last year. And I remember just saying to him, but you're almost, and then he kept losing managers, right? But actually the profit that he got to was a good profit. So it was kind of like, well, why don't you incentivize this guy to take responsibility off of you? If he can keep the profit at the same level, but free you up to go and spend a bit more time on, he got a little sailing boat and to do that, surely that's that's a bigger win for you than having more profit and just being even more stressed.
Because the profit already covers the business costs, covers the tax that's got to be paid, covers all the things the business needs to thrive.
And a lot more besides.
Yeah.
There was plenty more for pension contributions, investing in profit. But I think he'd spent so long just focused on increasing profit, that it was like there was a little bit of a blinkers on there. And funnily enough, I kind of got him on side with that idea, but I never got his wife on side with it. So and in the end, he was a little bit older than her, and he's not with us now, sadly. But in the end, he did manage to take a step back, but it just meant more responsibility on her.
Wow.
So
I never thought that. I really like the point early in conversation when you mentioned that as an accountant, you've got all that visibility and you can learn so much from the businesses, because it's always about numbers. Everybody talk, but now when I'm listening to you, it's just it's like a school to learn from all of their successes, failures, and you can easily implement in your business. For me, it sounds like you had quite innovative and different thinkings about creating a team and the culture in your company. How did you make that? Because for me, what you are talking about is, because nowadays we still got all this old mind thinking about business, and
it's very
especially just to step back is something very difficult. How did you build your team and you managed to find the right people to fit? Because I think this is another challenge as well, I assume.
Yeah. What's that saying? When it's, how did you get so many things right? Experience. How did you get experience getting lots of things wrong?
That's good,
hopefully there's not too many recruitment agents listening to this, but a lot of the professional businesses, a lot of professional companies just seem to recruit all their staff via recruitment agencies. And often that's because they haven't planned ahead. So all of a sudden they need somebody, and what am I going to do? I need somebody who's ready-made, who can just slot into our business. And the only way to do that is to contact a recruitment agency, and hopefully they'll send you some good candidates. The danger of that is that sometimes for the experience of different things that you're bringing in, you're also getting lots of bad habits coming in as well. And if you can develop a team yourself, then you can get them all in good habits from day one. So, but that requires a little bit of forward thinking. One of our key things has been to try and always be slightly overstaffed. Because if you're not slightly overstaffed, you haven't got the capacity to deal with the growth. You haven't got the time to go looking for new clients. You haven't got the time to be proactive.
What about to teach someone or to help someone to grow?
Absolutely right. So, and there've been times that hasn't worked out. Especially when we took on one trainee a year, if you take on the wrong trainee and they don't work out, suddenly you've got this gap. Now we're taking on 5. If all 5 work out, amazing. If only 4 work out, it's not disastrous really. But once that had started, it kind of takes a bit of it's got a bit of a life of its own, because the first trainee, you've kind of got to teach them yourself, right? The second trainee has got somebody a year ahead of them that they can follow. And so we start to build all of the background processes. I mean, our recruitment process for people to start on the 1st of September begins in about November the previous year, because we start talking to some of the schools about the dates of their careers fair. And, and inevitably some of the careers officers at the schools have changed since the previous year. So, and then we start going to the careers fairs in the early months of the year, and then we start advertising as well, because we don't just rely on that. And then that all builds up to ad going out, and we'll get about 500 applications a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and
for how many places? 500 applications for
4 or 5 places.
4 or 5 places.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, do you know what? We probably need that many.
Yeah. So just to find the right people. Because finding, one of the common themes I think, as we've been discussing to people, is finding the people with the passion that they really want to do.
Yeah.
Not that, I'd just like to come and work for you. Right, my dad wanted me to an accountant, so here I am. Sort of, because you want to be in it and want to learn, don't you?
Yeah.
One of the things I was just thinking, just as you just were saying that, the fact that you do it regularly, so you're always taking on 4 or 5 apprentices each year or trainees each year, it means that I guess the staff that you've got, that they're are used to working with the young people and actually bringing them on board, which is something I think that most modern businesses don't have. Because it's all of a sudden, I think a lot of companies today all of a sudden wake up and go, we need to grow. And like you said, that they go to recruitment companies, we'll take a placement, we'll put that person in there, that person comes in, and then the recruitment company comes along and goes, I'll take that person back out of your business, and they put them somewhere else. But growing organically and constantly training, but so many companies today don't have that structure and the people to actually give people the training, do they?
I would say we met few companies, but I like that mentioned they are taking always apprenticeship of people to build them. They go from university and you are maybe the second or third one that I can hear, but as a model, I think it's definitely the best. Maybe it costs you a bit more in the beginning.
Absolutely,
as you said, because you're going to need to pay a little bit more money, even if the stuff is more than needed. But as you said, if you have that gap more than needed, definitely this effort can be gone to people to develop, to learn, and to build it's a model that definitely is really good, but unfortunately people are waiting until everything is so straight and they want last minute people.
I know, and the thing is as well, the kids only leave school once a year, so you've got to plan ahead for this. There's no point deciding in in September that you're going to take a school leaver on, because the best ones have probably already got jobs. So,
of course.
Yeah.
But that is definitely, it's
Yeah.
thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And invest in them, because it is kind of investment. But by the sounds of it, how is the exactly word to say that your team is staying? People are not leaving a lot. What is
We've
the
got
code?
we've got
What is
we've got a really good retention
Yeah.
rate within the business, and that's always been my goal. I always used to say the goal is staff-wise, hang on to the good ones. And that means, what does somebody that we might say is good want? Well, they want to see the next step. So whatever that next step is, if they're they're getting the job, the next step is to do the job in the first place. Once they know what they're doing, the next step is a little bit more responsibility. And we can show them that path right the way through to being managing partner.
Yeah.
Because Emma and Josh have trodden that path.
This is a great example with them. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. The key thing is you've got to have systems in place for everything. I read a big inspiration for the book and my philosophy is a book that you may have read, and some of the podcast listeners may have read, which is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. So the E-myth is the entrepreneurial myth is that people run businesses, whereas in actual fact, most of them just work in a business that they also own. And if you take them out of the business, it ceases to exist because everything's dependent on them. So we have written systems in place for everything that repeats in our organisation. There are written systems, and things that are annual processes, we're constantly evolving those. So we had one of, in regards to staff, one of the things we're most proud of is for about 4 or 5 years up until I think sort of COVID year, there were some awards for the school leaver, employer school leaver awards, and there was a few different categories, and we started entering them, and we were, first year we came about 50th or 60th. This is every industry. This is not just accountancy. So when you looked at the, I think we were one place above Marks and Spencer the first year.
Wow, that's a good...
And then the last year they did it, one of the categories was best training program for school leavers, and we came third. And first was Nestle, and second was McDonald's. And I remember thinking, this is awesome. Kind of slightly mad, really, isn't it? It's a little accountancy practice in West Kingstown.
Yeah, but why not?
Yeah, but it was, it was what it was that training program that we've got. We just built and built and built and built. It started off with a bit of what we're going to do with him to start with, and then every year it gets a little bit more. We add to it and add to it. So.
But that's something today. So many businesses don't have that structure. I mean, building that structure and making it happen, and it's just so much reaction. Obviously, I mean, the other thing is a lot of businesses like planning it. The world is so uncertain in terms of where it's going because political decisions and like the media all of a sudden tomorrow go, well, we're going to go into a huge depression. So everyone goes, oh, we're not spending any money, and it's self-fulfilling. And then the media turn around and go, oh, well, we're about to go into boom time. Everything's going really well. And all of a sudden everyone goes, oh, we're going to spend. And like businesses can't react often quick enough to those fluctuations. And that's probably, I think, one of the hardest things for many businesses to sort of navigate that journey. And that's something that with the preparation that you put in, obviously that makes a huge difference because you're always ready to do what the next.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, we are privileged in a way in our industry to not suffer from a massive roller coaster in terms of, volume of work. The accountancy industry, when, if the country's on a boom, the accountancy industry will have a nice little bump up. And if the economy is in a rut, then we'll have a small dip. Most of our work, we sort of work about 90% of our work next year will be the same clients as last year, so we haven't got to replace that much each year. So we are that does enable us to plan ahead. If you're in a business that doesn't have that luxury, then to make your business less dependent on you, there's other things, there's other techniques that you need to think about, really. And so hopefully I cover most of those in the book.
I'm sure.
I'm still watching you and I'm thinking 15 years old, Malcolm knew what he wants, obviously without even going sideways. You are always focused and you get there. Have you ever had a thought that what if I change it, or maybe I want to change the path, or it was absolutely fulfillment that you are where you want to be?
Yeah, change the path, or a different path. Yeah, I've never thought about a different path. I think, once you've been running your own business for a few years, you're almost unemployable, aren't you? How are you ever going to go and work for anyone else? So.
And I guess that happens occasionally when someone comes along to you and said, "Do you fancy coming in and running our business, or would you like to get involved?" But then you go, all the things that you've got and all the things you've built are not there. You've got to change everything. Or you feel as if you've got to change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. At the stage of my career that I'm at, I'm helping quite a lot of clients in the process of selling their businesses, and that's always quite interesting because some of them, part of the deal is that they've got to go and work for the company for 2 years, and I just kind of think I'd love to be a fly on the wall, So yeah, I was speaking to the in-house management accountant at one of the clients that's been sold, and he was telling me that the man who was previously his boss and is now his colleague, because they're now taken over, was doing, what was the training he was doing? I don't know. They'd sent him on some HR training courses that he had to do as part of his induction. He's been running this company for 35 years, and I just think I'd love to be able to see you in that induction training at the moment, but some people it would absolutely drive them mad. Other people will kind of go, look, do you know what? It's not my company anymore.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Here
is really they're just advisor and observer, because the hardest thing as well, isn't it? It's like from being the business owner and being able to sort of, right, okay, make the decisions, right, okay, they come to you, right, can we make a decision? Can we change this? Can we buy this? Yeah, go and do it. And as soon as you're part of a much bigger company, all of a sudden they come to you and go, can we buy this? And you go, oh, yeah, we'll do that. And all of a sudden you think, oh, I can't do that, actually, because I've now got to do a return on investment and piece it all together. Oh, well, I'm not used to doing that. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's a bill. I think that's one of the toughest things, I think, for an entrepreneur who then becomes the advisor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I've got one foot in both camps at the moment, because I'm not managing partner anymore, but, if there are things that, I know are going to go wrong, then I'm going to say, but there's not too much of that really. And actually, although it probably took my team a year to just get used to the idea that
you are stepping back.
Yeah, that I'm stepping back, and that it's not just about. Yeah, I think sometimes.
Church.
I think in any business, if you're the number two in a business, and I'm not talking just ours, I'm talking about all the clients I've seen. I don't think you realise the level of responsibility for acting is. You can't wait. You've got to see things and act quickly often. And actually that client that I just mentioned, and a couple of other clients as well, I always say that they're very good at catastrophizing. And that sounds like a negative, but actually it's like anxiety. People talk about anxiety now like it's an illness, but actually anxiety is what stopped us getting eaten by lions, right? Okay. A bit of worry is quite a good thing, and And I think if you're running a successful business, you're quite good at catastrophizing. So you drive home from work stewing on a particular problem that has happened that day, and then you go to bed thinking about that problem, and then you wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning and you think to yourself, oh my God, if that's happening on that customer and that customer, it's probably happening on all our customers. We're going to lose half our customers. We're going to get sued by the other half. And by sort of 4:30, you've convinced yourself you're going to be homeless by the end of the month. And then at 4:30 in the morning, you start thinking, oh, well, what are we going to do about it? Right? By about 6 in the morning, you know what you're going to do about it.
Solutions.
And then when everybody else wanders into the office at 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever, you go, right, we need to have a chat. And if the buck stops with you and it's your business, that's what you do. If it's just a job, it's somebody else's responsibility to do that. And then those things that have been going wrong might have been quite small. They're going wrong for months, and those things become the final straw for why you lost your best member of staff, your best customer, or whatever it is. So,
no, that's good.
This is something that my dad was always saying when we talk sometimes about work for someone, because there are people who love to go 9 till 5, go home. They don't want headaches. They don't want anything, just the normal to earn, and that's it. And you've got the other people who want to be owners, who want to do that, but you pay a price, and it's exactly that price that you said. And this is what my dad was always telling me: don't think that it's so easy. You need to think this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. There are two options, and in life we can choose which one we want.
And you're right. And I think if your business is going to be successful, unless you just get lucky and in the right place at the right time, but if your business is going to be successful, you are going to pay that price for a number of years.
Yes.
What the book is about not paying that price forever, and you can make your business less dependent on you. And I mentioned a little story in the book about somebody that I played golf with one day, and I think we teed off at about 3 o'clock, and I'd lost count of how many phone calls he took in the first 9 holes. And some of them you're just thinking, can nobody think for themselves at this business? But he's probably created that. He's created that situation where every decision has to go through him. And of course, the first 9 holes is absolutely disastrous, right? And then about 5:30 hit. Well, of course, that's the end of the working day. And the phone call stopped. He was brilliant on the back 9.
But he can't enjoy even a game of golf, isn't it? Because I'm out of the office, I agree here that most probably we or the people are creating that atmosphere. It doesn't matter, you're a manager, you're a director, you're owner of business, it's all come from you, how you're going to build around you. How do you find time for yourself? Obviously, during all these years, 30 years in business, being busy, how do you always find the time to recharge yourself? What do you like to do? Obviously, you like to read books. You mentioned quite a few.
Yeah, well, I like. This will date the today's one, but I'm going to see Oasis this evening at Wembley. Can't wait. I love the sport. Whether that's watching or playing. I was a racket sport player until tennis elbow, I thought, killed off my racket sports career. And then I discovered pickleball a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm off to the English Open to play pickleball in a couple of weeks. So that's,
So sport is something that was
sport and music.
Because that gives you focus. It gives you focus on mindset, keeps you fit, keeps you active, and all the benefits of that is really powerful within business as well, isn't it?
We talk so much about mental health these days, but mental health and physical health have a connection, right? And you know, I've always been a bit of a jogger. I'm not going to say runner because I'm probably not quick enough to describe myself as a runner. But I discovered Parkrun about 2013, and I always used to go for a run on a Saturday morning. And I discovered this Parkrun, and Parkrun is really sort of, I don't know if you've ever done it, but there's one down at Whitstable, Sittingbourne, out on the Isle of Sheppey. There's sort of some quite near ones to here. And Parkrun's really interesting because it taps into a lot of things that drive people. The first thing is that it's regular. It's the same time every single week. It's 9 o'clock Saturday morning, all over the country. The second thing is that it's sort of about the right distance. So it's a nice mix between aerobic and anaerobic. So the third thing is that there's a community to it. So the one that I started at was near Gravesend, and it was 3 laps. And I always used to lap these 2 ladies about the same place every single week, you know, and that's obviously their little thing to meet up. And it was interesting. One week, obviously one of them hadn't turned up because the other lady was clearly a lot quicker. And when her friend wasn't there, she was a lot quicker. But that was their thing every week, to have that community. So you start
felt
to
as
get
if you
to know.
weren't doing too well that day.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing, which, you know, really will connect with a lot of business owners, is the email that turns up every week. It tells you, congratulations on your 173rd Parkrun. This is your time is this. This is where you came in your age category. This is your age graded percentage. Congratulations on a PB or whatever. So there's so many things that it sort of, a sporting thing touches on in a mental health kind of way. There might be some other Parkrun addicts out there that have that do it almost every single week, and just get that. It's not just the exercise; it's the mental buzz from it as well. So didn't expect to talk about Parkrun on this.
No, but
it's nice. My boss on the company where I'm working, I know that he's doing that 4 years, and it turned out that a lady on my street that I met recently, actually her and her husband, I think they are some of the volunteers who actually are doing that, and they involve the kids as well. So I heard recently a lot about Parkrun, and it was interesting that you mentioned, because it's something sounds quite nice, and I know that you can go with family, with kids. It's just open to
dogs,
any ages. Quite good thing. Maybe we need to do a podcast about that. Parkrun. If
absolutely.
I must be honest, because sounds really, really good thing for people to do.
I mean, I've been beaten at Parkrun by somebody who's less than half my height. So I think he was probably about 9 or 10. Sprint finished past me at the end. Wow. Somebody who was about 25 years older than me, and a lady who was 7.5 months pregnant.
Wow.
So
I like the community vibe there as well, because people definitely create that little bunch of like-minded people, maybe, and you never know who you will meet again.
Well, sometimes because if you're doing a similar time every week, you're chasing the same people you were chasing last week.
You may have the goals to overtake them.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So, Malcolm, well, thank you this morning very much.
Thank you.
For everyone who is interested in the books, so obviously Accidental Millionaire, we don't have that book with us today, but we have this book here, Making Your Business Less Dependent on You, and I'm sure you can find both books probably on Amazon, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we'll leave the links below so you can have a look. So Malcolm, thank you so much for sharing the story today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, and thank you for your time. For everyone who's listening, we hope you really enjoyed today's episode. You found it really helpful and inspirational. If you're watching, please do give us a like and follow, particularly on YouTube.
And also, if you want to help and support us, please buy us a coffee on the link below, because like that you'll help us to be able to share more and more inspirational stories with the world. Thank you.
See you soon.